Hi, and welcome to The Road to Revenue. This is the podcast where we talk to creators to understand the twists, the turns, and the bumps in the road on their own personal journey building their road to revenue. Joining me today, we have the absolutely amazing Logan Nathanson. Welcome, Logan.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me here.
You know what? We're super excited. We were having a bit of a chat before we got on camera here. And I'm always a big fan of all our clients. And I love to see all the different ways. And certainly someone who, like you, uses it so purely is absolutely amazing. So I'd love if you could just talk us a little bit around the content that you produce and give us a view of what it is you're up to.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. So I produce content across pretty much every single social media platform. A majority of it is short form focused, and it's pretty heavily focused on product reviews and more specifically Amazon products. Those products tend to be in the categories of home, kitchen, and tech most often, but deviate from that a little bit for sure. And I kind of just dive into the products and what I love about them and share that with my audience.
That's got to be a lot to keep on top of. Why all of the channels? What's your thinking behind that, and how do you even come to that?
Yeah, it definitely is a lot to keep track of. I would say it definitely like slowly builds over time. So I'm constantly adding like one new thing every once in a while, and so over time it just got to a lot. But honestly, it's just a diversity play for me. Some months, TikTok will do super well for me and get me a ton of clicks, and other months that'll be down, and Facebook will get those clicks for me, and other months that'll be down, and Instagram will get those clicks. So it's really a huge cycle of trying to make sure like that things are as consistent as they possibly can be with social media by being in as many places as possible.
I dove right in, and I'm super curious about the different platforms, and we'll definitely come back to each of them because I want to dig in to understand more of your approach on each of them. But what got you into producing content? What was the what's your origin story?
Yeah, so my now wife and I kind of grew up watching very similar content to the type we're now producing, but exclusively on YouTube, just long form YouTube videos about product reviews, people's favorite products, organization products, life hacks. Those types of content was what we just watched a ton of. And when we got locked up inside with COVID, we were just kind of bored and wanted to take a chance at having some fun with it. TikTok was relatively new at the time. This was April 2020. So I think TikTok really started becoming big right around that time of COVID as well. And we just looked around our home, saw some Amazon products we had, and just quickly picked up a camera and filmed them at the time, just honestly for fun. Things escalated way quicker than we could have ever imagined. Within a few months, brands were reaching out to us, asking us to advertise their products. Just wanted to like send us free products, which we thought was the absolute coolest thing in the world to get something for free and then be able to like own it and then talk about it if we loved it. And shortly after that, brands wanted to pay us to do the same exact thing. So it was honestly probably about a 6 month turnaround between all of those things. Social media followers were growing super fast at the time as well. So we had hundreds of thousands of followers before we even could believe what was happening on social media. Um, and when we first started, we were making a couple dollars here and there through Amazon affiliate links, through brands paying us a small amount of money. And we had a very, very long term goal of being able to buy flights to Japan, which ended up being our honeymoon destination, through everything that we were doing with all of our posting, which we thought was just fun. And obviously now it has turned into much more than that. I've been full time on it for almost 2 years now.
Wow.
Quit my previous job back in April of 2021. So
So talk to me and tell me about like what was that moment where the money started, but where literally that first part where that first piece of revenue arrived. How did you feel at that point?
it was crazy. It was something we never really expected. I had an idea about the Amazon affiliate program when we first started posting about it. And so we got onto Amazon links pretty quickly. But again, we thought we were going to make a couple dollars here and there. To be completely honest, I never knew that a content creator or an influencer or anyone in this space could really make a living doing this job. And so it was just never really expected until at the end of 2020 when we really started seeing a spike in shopping, in our affiliate link clicking, in brand outreach, and all these other things. And um, it was just a wild learning journey for a very long time, and honestly still is.
It, so take me back. You're in lockdown, right? We've got the pandemic going on. You start looking at products. How did you move from those products that you had around the house to choosing your next products that you wanted to feature?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of that was just things we wanted to purchase. It's say we I don't remember the exact numbers off my head, but say we made $500 in October of 2020. We said, let's take half of that, let's go buy products we really like, and then we'll post more videos on those new products, and we'll just kind of continue that until things die out, things change, something like that. So yeah, we took a lot of what we made at the beginning and just bought things that we always wanted to buy on Amazon, and then just started talking about those, and that just kept going and going to the point where things were going to the point where brands then wanted to send us products, and a lot less choice was on our end at that point.
Some of those brands that reached out in the very beginning, when they started reaching out, was it was it an easy decision to say yes, you're going to review them, or were there products that you thought didn't fit well? What kind of a mix of products were you offered?
Yeah, I mean, it was everything from every category as soon as brands started reaching out to us. We've always, since the beginning, we've done a lot of denying requests that come in. Tons and tons of small companies want us to talk about their products on Amazon. And if it's things that are so far out of our niche, or even honestly at this point, even if it's a little bit outside of what I think my audience will like, we're denying 90 to 95% of emails that are coming in right now. Um, it was definitely a period of time at the beginning where things were so shocking to us and so exciting that we were accepting a much larger quantity of that, through probably most of 2021. It was just, uh, it was a bit of a journey of how many brands can we work with in 2021, which in hindsight was a pretty poor strategy, but I had no idea what I was doing. We were basically working with 20 to 25 different brands every single month on partnerships,
Wow.
with products they were sending us. And so it was a little bit less selective because, we were trying to fill almost every day of our calendar with a brand sending us a product and potentially a payment with that
Yeah.
product. Um, and in 2022, I got like a realization that that was a horrible strategy through the whole year, and shifted that entirely to now it's more like 15 to 20% of our posts that we do are, brand partnerships, and the other 80 85% are things that we do a lot of research on, find products that we love, and keep talking about those sorts of things again.
So thinking about it, you started off, it was very much based around your life, your just wanting to have some fun, flipping the switch then into really kind of doing the bidding of so many brands. I can imagine that was very stressful.
It definitely was. Yeah, it was a lot of work to keep up with all these brands and chase them all down for payments and follow up with all of them when all the posts were going live, and making sure that we were creating good content for all of them, and all these little details that goes into every single partnership. It was a huge realization that I was spending not even close to enough time, um, focus on like building a relationship with the brand and putting my best effort into every piece of content that was sponsored. Um, because there was just too much going on to think about all of that. So, yeah, it was definitely a change for the better the next year.
So the brands that you moved on to, did you bring some of those ones though, kind of from the early days? Have you brought some along with you, or have you changed over the brands that you were?
Yeah, we've definitely worked with a few of these brands for a very long time. The first one that comes to mind for me is Liquid IV. They've been a partner of ours for quite a while. They're basically like electrolyte packets that you pour into water, mix in, and it hydrates you a little bit more. And they were one of our first partners back in late 2020, and I'm still using and loving their products and working with them today. So there are definitely some that have come along. A lot of our early partnerships were for very, very small amounts of money. For example, when we hit 100,000 followers, in our videos, we're getting 500,000 views. We were charging $100 for a post, which anyone today would tell you is significantly under what we should have been charging. And so it was a hard transition from, you know, just give us $100 to give us multiple times more than that to do the same thing that you've been doing with us, because we realized that we were making a mistake. So that was quite a transition on our end, and a lot of work to get to the point where, you know, we were happy with how much brands were paying us, and they weren't too upset with that kind of change. So
And so where did you learn how to have that as a conversation? Or was that is it something you figured out on your own, or?
yeah, I mean, to be honest, it's all been an obsessive learning spree for almost 4 years now. It is on my mind 24/7. I am constantly watching YouTube videos. I'm constantly listening to other podcasts. I'm constantly talking with other people who are content creators. It's just a lot of studying and research, constantly reading books, watching videos on social media, on short form videos. All those sorts of things are all different learning sources. Taking classes, paying mentors, all those sorts of things are just adding up together to continue to help me learn and figure out this space that I knew nothing about.
So, I mean, along that journey, then you must have discovered some things that were, I don't know, like maybe bad habits or myths that you'd been following. What's what's kind of one or two of the worst pieces of advice you followed, or myths that you maybe followed a little bit too long?
You know, I think there's a bunch of little ones with social media, like make sure you're posting at this exact time, make sure you're posting 3 videos a day, make sure you're using these types of hashtags and this quantity of hashtags, and I think all of that matters very little. At the end of the day, I think every social media platform's goal is pretty much the same, and that's to keep people on the platform as long as possible. And with that being their goal, the best way to get there is to make the best content that people want to watch. And so that is really where a lot of like things have shifted for me, is trying to figure out how to make the best content that people actually genuinely want to watch, rather than making sure I post it exactly 8 p.m. every single day, which I'm relatively consistent still. But yeah, I think good content is much more important than almost anything else in terms of visibility. And then I guess some of the myths in my head were that like quantity of brand partnerships was better than quality, as I was talking about, where it's for sure the complete opposite for me now. Um, and just making sure that all of those partnerships are super aligned with our audience, our niche, what we genuinely love. That everything I'm saying is as organic as possible. So
How have you evolved in terms of your workflow and the equipment you use? How has that changed over time? Because I imagine that's got to have changed significantly.
yeah, I mean everything changes like super constantly. Honestly, I'm always trying out like new tools to help me speed up things faster, new tools to convert better, hence Geniuslink here, and the deep linking that comes with that. New tools to film better, a better lighting system. You know, upgrading from no lights for a very long time to a $50 handheld light that we used to use to probably a $500 or $600 lighting setup that we now use, and because I think lighting is super important for videos. Um, so all of those things constantly change. New organization tools for our business. I use Notion pretty in depth to track everything that I do, every email that I send. It notifies me of all the follow ups I need to take with everyone I'm in communication with, all the payments I need to chase down. I track everything inside of there. So um, yeah, I mean things are improving in all of those categories every single month, honestly.
Yeah, I mean it is. It's when you go down the journey of development, there is no end, right? Like it's a constant journey. Um, what's some of the early advice that you feel had the biggest impact?
That's definitely a really good question. I feel like when I was first starting out, most people I was learning from and talking to were also relatively new to the space, and so it was a lot of bouncing ideas off of each other, whether good or bad. Um, that probably I don't listen to or like use anymore because most of it was probably wrong. I think one of the things that comes to my mind is like follower count determining how much a brand should pay you, which there are definitely brands out there which care about how many followers you have on social media, and to some extent, it definitely, of course, matters. But I think being a good partner to the brand, helping them achieve their goals, are two of the more important things. And I would even put viewership, how many views your content is getting, above those things as well.
When you started measuring, because metrics are like super, super, you talked about viewership, and how has that evolved in terms of your understanding and where your focus is?
I think viewership is constantly up and down on social media. It's a constant battle of analyzing my videos that do well, analyzing my videos that don't do well, trying to figure out where the gaps are in those differences. And sometimes that is, sometimes there's a little bit of luck that plays into that. Sometimes social media does just choose to push out something more than something else. I'll have a video that I post and someone else will repost the exact same video and get 10 times as many views, which, obviously it's not on the content at that point. It's just more of a luck thing. So it's, I spend a lot of time diving deep into my analytics and like trying to find correlations between all of these things, but it can be extremely difficult and overwhelming to try to find those, and also try and understand if there even is some sort of correlation between all of this. I think YouTube does this kind of analytics correlation the best, with their retention rate graphs, with their click through rates on thumbnails, and with like total watch time of audience. It's pretty clear that those are the most important things on YouTube. On other platforms, those sorts of things change super often. So, but yeah, it's a constant battle with analytics.
How do you, from the analytics perspective, right? So views, super, super important. How do you weigh up I guess the importance of the other metrics on the platforms? You talked about follower count, but there's a lot to analyze. How do you decide what's important?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really tricky question, and sometimes that does come down to, in partnerships at least, what the brand is looking for. A lot of these brands do want to maximize views, and so that's obviously an important one. But they can also put spend behind that and get to the views that they want, and so they actually might just want good lighting in your content. They might just want some sort of call to action at the end, and so the analytics might drop because you're spending 5 seconds at the end, specifically shouting something out. But the brand's going to put spend behind it and get that up to where they want it view wise. So some brands are looking for more of like engagement type audiences, so they want to see, you know dedicated people who are coming, making inside jokes in the comments, always there in the comment sections, those sorts of things as well. So it does kind of bounce all over the place in terms of most important metrics, I would say.
And do you find that brands are very clear about that up front, or do you have to work with them to understand what's important?
I would say over the last few years, it has shifted a little bit towards more clarity. For the first 2, maybe even 3 years, 95% of the brands I work with don't understand what they're even looking for in a campaign. They don't. They might have never worked with anyone before to create content. They might be new to social media in general, and so it was, and still is, a lot of education back and forth with the brand, talking with them, making sure that the content I create is like actually going to do what they want it to do, rather than me making something for a different purpose, than what they want. So yeah, it's a lot of back and forth with them, and I always just want to make sure that like when my partnership is coming to an end, when the content's live, when everything is all said and done, I want to make sure that they're like happy with the results, which to some extent is uncontrollable. You can't control how many views your post is getting and things like that, but I want to have done everything I can to make sure that it's as close to what they want as possible, and that's a lot of conversation.
Do you find you're initiating that conversation, or do you have a fixed process that you take people through to I guess, to gauge where they are as a brand and to walk them through?
Yeah, I initiate the conversation 90% plus of the time, asking them, what are your overall goals here? How can I help you get to those goals? Proposing things to get to those goals. If I have a better idea than they might have, all those sorts of things.
And are you finding that so you mentioned you've reduced the number of brands, and are you doing any outreach to secure any particular brands, or are you reliant on completely inbound inquiries for brands?
Yeah, I would say for the first year or so, we were 50 to 70% outbound.
Mm-hmm.
We were reaching out to 100 brands a month, probably trying to get them to work with us and send us products. At this point, it's probably more like 95% inbound, and it's probably been that way for about a year.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I reach out to brands who are launching new products or are like sending out newsletters with exciting things they're doing, things like that, and try and work on partnerships that would fit my audience in those sorts of regards. But honestly, the inbound is um, fortunately pretty overwhelming at
Mm-hmm.
this point, and so it is a lot of inbound for me.
Excellent, excellent. I mean, that for me, I would read that as a testament to the quality of your content and the value of your audience. You mentioned your audience before. You obviously nurture that audience and pay close attention.
For sure, yeah, it's something that I pay super close attention to of what they want and what works well for them and what they're shopping for and all those sorts of things. So, um, yeah, it's a lot of smaller companies, new Amazon sellers who see a huge opportunity in getting their page a huge potential spike in clicks, in sales, in traffic, better ranking on Amazon. If you're not on the first page of Amazon with your product, you're probably not selling your product pretty much at all. I mean, anyone who's listening to this knows like you've probably never clicked to the second page of a search result on Amazon. So imagine all the people who are on that second page and further, they need to get to the first page somehow. And a lot of that is just traffic driven to that page, which we can often help, you know, smaller sellers get to that point. So
How do you nurture and engage with your audience to get a sense and understanding of what's a good fit and of how they're receiving and how they're enjoying your content?
it's a couple of different things for me. Number one is obviously just reading through comments. If I post about something and it has 100 comments versus another video that I post about a product that has 10,000 comments, it gives me that slight idea of like, okay, I should lean more towards the one that has 10,000 comments because they're obviously more engaged with that. Number two is polls on Instagram story or something I use every single day, asking them, would you buy any of these products? Which ones do you prefer? Do you have something like this already? Would you want something like this? All those sorts of little questions give me a slight edge towards that as well. And then number three is Amazon affiliate program. I can see the products that people are purchasing in aggregate, and so I can see this product sold the most in the past month. This one's second most. How do they relate? Oh, they're both kind of in this home category. So let me look for more products that are related to those sorts of products, and see if I can find anything to kind of relate to all that. So
I mean, you mentioned the platforms changing kind of over time, and one may be better than the other. But do you also see that in terms of the types of products? Do you see a seasonality to that?
there definitely is, yeah. There's a lot of seasonality. There's a lot of just like kind of like trends that go along with these products. At one point in time, like portable monitors, especially back in late 2020, were blowing up on social media. I was selling a ton of them through Amazon, or I wasn't selling them. I was referring people to buy a ton of them, I should say. And then that kind of died off, and no one wanted a portable monitor anymore. A lot of different categories of products have had their huge spikes and died off, and that's a constant journey of making sure that I'm on top of those products that are going to trend like that and that are going to sell super well.
So could you talk me through what does your split look like? Are you trying to follow those trends most of the time, or balance with other products as well? How do you decide what that mix is?
Yeah, I mean, I would say the ultimate goal from a business perspective is always to find the product that people are going to be purchasing the most. There's some sort of balance to that where I love just talking about the products that I currently love the most, which tends to cycle a little bit as well. And I definitely like to throw in some of those videos of this is actually like my favorite product right now. I don't, maybe none of you will buy it, but it's still my content at the end of the day. I want to have fun and I want to talk about the things I love. And so there's definitely a bit of that kind of mixed into there as well. And then it's a lot of trial of no one's ever talked about this product. I think it's really cool, but will other people, it's kind of a guessing game to post about new products that people haven't heard of. So it's a mix of all three of those things. And it's tough to find the correct balance of all of it.
What's one that surprised you?
I recently talked about like a retractable clothesline. It's this clothesline that you kind of like you nail a couple pieces into your walls in your laundry room, just like with one nail into each side, and then you pull the clothesline and it goes all the way across your laundry room and hooks into the other side, basically. And I think it's an awesome product because nobody has a clothesline in their home. Maybe you have one outside, but even that's pretty uncommon. It's hard to hang things up to dry, and I wasn't sure if other people would think that's silly because they're already finding a solution. Maybe they're hanging it up over bars or something like that, or maybe they would also think it's really cool and unique. And yeah, lots of people ended up being super interested in that one and purchasing that pretty recently.
It is. It's one of those. It's an interesting product, isn't it? Because it's close enough to being something that we're very familiar with, but far enough away to be a little bit interesting and unique.
Yeah, exactly. I think a lot of the content and a lot of the products I try to search for are things that try to solve a problem that people have or solve a problem that's maybe being solved in some sort of way, but in a better solution. And sometimes what I think fits into that category, my audience might not necessarily fully agree with. They might think it's silly and they're going to continue doing the cheaper solution or the thing that they've already been doing for a really long time. And so, yeah, that's a lot of what I look for, though.
And so, products, you've got a mix of channels. You've also got a mix of revenue streams. Can you share a little bit about the revenue streams that you have and how they break down?
Yeah, definitely. The two biggest ones for me are definitely affiliate revenue, a majority of that through Amazon. So basically, what that is anytime I drive anyone to Amazon, if they purchase anything on the Amazon website, I get a kickback from that. It's typically a pretty small percentage, but obviously that can add up significantly if hundreds of thousands or millions of people are clicking through to Amazon and purchasing something. That kickback is at no cost to anyone else that is purchasing through these links. So, obviously, if it was, I would feel a little bit less good about stealing money from people, but instead it's just Amazon paying me a portion of what they're earning. The slight catch with that is a lot of people who watch my videos try to search for the product on their own because they don't want to go through my link. Maybe they can't find it. Maybe they don't care about supporting, giving me that small kickback. They don't understand that like it's not costing them anything and it's actually just giving the big corporation more money. So that can be a tricky battle. The other big one is brand sponsorships. So just a couple of them per month is what I'm shooting for right now, of partnerships that genuinely fit my audience, products that I genuinely love. So brand sponsorships is the other big one, and then a lot of smaller revenues like platforms paying per views, which most of these platforms do not pay a lot for views, unfortunately, outside of YouTube long form, which is a new venture for me and not really earning much. Yeah, I think those are pretty much the three categories.
Okay, and so diving back in then to platforms a little bit, YouTube being one of the newer ones. You're very well established on TikTok. We have a lot of our creators are very comfortable with YouTube. I'd probably say TikTok a little less so. What would you say are some of the key differences in how to approach TikTok compared to YouTube?
Yeah, it's tough because I wouldn't call myself a YouTube expert, and so it's hard for me to compare the two confidently. But one comparison I see a lot, which definitely resonates well with me, is a lot of YouTubers focus a lot of their time on their thumbnail and making sure that people are clicking on that thumbnail and then actually watching the beginning of their video once it's clicked in. So those are kind of the big things that people focus on YouTube to get more clicks and then increase the watch time on those videos. I'd say all of those things boil into the first 3 seconds of a TikTok video. The thumbnail doesn't matter. The first 30 seconds is way too long. Getting people to watch the first 3 seconds of a TikTok video is super important.
Mm.
And that is the biggest correlation number for me is the watch time after 3 seconds versus views is pretty heavily correlated. So that hook of the TikTok video is pretty much, I don't want to say everything, but by far the most important thing of short form content in general.
And so, how do you get your hooks right?
If I had the answer to that, my views would probably be 10 times higher on average. It is something that I am constantly trying new things for. I've gone from using my face on camera to using super clickbaity hooks at the beginning to super short and quick clips to where no one can understand what's going on in the first 3 seconds to something that looks entertaining, but they don't fully understand what it is in the first 3 seconds to unboxing a product in the first 3 seconds to dozens and dozens and dozens of other hooks that I've tried. The unfortunate part is that hook doesn't last forever. So once I find something that works, I might get a couple videos out of it, but then I'm back to experimentation and trying to figure out, okay, I can't do the same thing over and over again because people aren't going to be hooked at the same thing over and over again. So now I have to go on to the next thing and try and find that. And so, yeah, even if I did have an answer right now to the question, that could be different in 2 weeks from now. And so I'd say that is the hardest part of short form content is how do I hook people at the first 3 seconds and how do I adapt once that's no longer hooking people and try and figure out another way to hook them again.
And so, in terms of the customer journey, and so that hook, right, super important on TikTok. But obviously, links very different on TikTok than they are on YouTube. Can you talk us through that?
Yeah, this has changed a lot over time as well. I used to be able to just post links in the TikTok comments and have people copy paste and open it in their browser. Um, and then at some point that stopped working. At some point you could just say like link in bio and that would direct people. And then TikTok kind of stopped allowing people to type those kind of words and blocked that, censored the words link in bio in videos and in captions and comments and things like that. Now it's at the point where I'm just hopeful that when someone sees a product on TikTok and they want it, they understand how to find what I'm talking about. Now, a lot of that times, that's probably just people searching on their own, but a lot of the audience understands, okay, I want this. It's very likely I need to go to their profile page, click into the link in their bio, get to their website somehow, and then find the product somehow, which might differ based on who the creator is and what their setup is and of all that and everything. So it is a multi-step journey, unfortunately. I wish TikTok would make it easier and just let you put a link on their video that they could just tap on and it opens right to Amazon. But yeah, they make it pretty tough on TikTok. Instagram is a little bit easier because you can put a link right on Instagram stories that people can click on, and that's kind of what I'd be looking for on all the platforms if I could make it an ideal world.
Yeah.
From a platform perspective, they obviously don't want people to leave their platform, and so they don't want those links out there. But yeah, it's a tough journey to get people to click through.
So is that what drove you to start looking more into spending a bit more time focusing on YouTube?
That is definitely one of the major reasons. Just helping people get to the right place of the product when they want to shop it is definitely super important to me. Not only from a business perspective, but also just from like a human and connection perspective. I don't want to talk about this product. Want some have someone really want it, but then they can't find it while searching, and they don't know where to click to actually get to the product. It's frustrating for them and frustrating for me too, because I'll just get DMs over and over of how do I find this product. So yeah, definitely being able to put the links in the descriptions on YouTube, and now I think tag on videos and things like that as well is one of the big things. The other reason I want to get to YouTube is just for building a community better. On short form, it's very difficult to make a connection with an audience, especially when 90% of the time I'm showing the product in the videos and not myself and not my face. And so it's the best way I like to say it is I want people to know who I am if they see me in person. Not for the famous part of it. I honestly couldn't care less about being famous in that aspect, but more for the sense of I want them to associate the content to me and be able to relate to me, because that's how I like to watch content. My
Yeah.
favorite YouTubers, I know what they look like, I know who they are, I know the type of content they make, and that's a very tough thing to reach on short form content. Those are the main reasons I want to switch to YouTube as kind of my main platform in the future.
And I do think there's a great, and it is totally overused as a word, but the authenticity and that the genuineness that comes across by being able to associate that review with person who you trust, that certainly I can totally understand why that makes more sense from a community aspect. And I'd like to think also from relying on future and expecting future reviews to be beneficial, and seeking their favorite creator as that first point of call before then going elsewhere and doing their own discovery.
Yeah, exactly. I think there's a lot of, I'll call it, fraud reviews on social media. People posting things, just to earn commission. I see this a lot on TikTok Shop as the biggest example I can think of, um, where everyone will just talk about the same product and say the same things. And, they might not actually love the product, but they're just trying to earn a commission through TikTok Shop. And I think it's very hard to distinguish all of those sorts of people from each other when you don't see their face very often, because yeah, you don't build that sort of trust in a person if you don't know who's actually referring you to that product. So yeah, I think authenticity is for sure a good way to put it, that you gain a lot of from being on YouTube and talking to the camera directly and talking to your audience directly.
And so you've adapted, you've changed, you've made this migration. You're now looking to spend more time on YouTube, and you've seen a shift in terms of the brand deals, and definitely gone for quality over quantity, which I think they're probably incredibly appreciative of it. I think it makes a lot of real good sense. There's what else over the next 12 months are you most looking forward to?
Yeah, it really is that YouTube journey that's top of mind for me. I've only been posting YouTube videos for 6, 7, 8 months now, something around that time. And so I'm still spending a lot of my time learning YouTube, figuring out how to make the best long form content, because it is a whole different world for me than the short form, which is pretty ingrained in me at this point, something I can do without too much thought into every single little detail of it, versus YouTube. I'm pretty lost through the entire process right now. So yeah, a lot of this year is focusing on YouTube for me. I have future ambitions of launching my own product as well. Not sure how deep I'll get into that in the next 12 months. But yeah, I have plans to launch um, a product of some sort. I'm not exactly sure what that will be yet. I have ideas all the time, but the big problem with buying products all the time and reviewing products all the time is I want the product that I make to be the the best product I've ever seen before, the best product that anyone's ever purchased,
Yeah.
and that's about as high of a bar as you could possibly have for creating your own first product. I can't settle for something that's like not my favorite product, and so getting to that product is very difficult for me, and is going to take me a lot of brainstorming and like I need to find the right problem to solve with some sort of product. So that's a long term journey for me as well. But
I mean,
yeah, something
that
I'm
sounds
not super close on.
super interesting, um, and definitely a lofty goal to want that kind of 5-star review out of the gate with, with that kind of feedback just from yourself, not even from anyone else. But I think it's a really good goal to have, and I'd like to think, and I think I'm pretty safe in saying it's not the case with everyone who creates a product that how they go into it. So, yeah, I'm super looking forward to seeing what that product, whatever that product is. I'm really interested. So,
Yeah,
you
thank you.
you will definitely have to keep us abreast of how that progresses and where you go in the journey. Um,
I definitely will. It's definitely a longer term thing for me. So we'll see when I come up with the right idea and dive into that.
So you've been doing this for a little while, right? And you've got some platforms under your belt, and you've built up this into this is your full time your full time job being a creator. What kind of advice would you have for people who are maybe not as far down their road to revenue as you are?
Yeah, I mean, I would say the number one thing that you can do on social media is consistency. A lot of creators stop posting, at some point in their journey because they're burnt out, they're not making enough money, they're not having enough fun, all of those sorts of little things. And it really does just take time. I got really lucky with how quickly things spun up for me. Um, but I also have posted almost every single day for almost 4 years now. That's over 1,000 videos I've created at this point. You look at Mr. Beast, the number one YouTuber out there. I think it's something like 200 videos that he posted before he got to 1,000 subscribers, something along those lines. And so everyone wants it super fast these days, but it doesn't typically come super fast. There's a lot of little skills that you got to build up over time. There's a lot that you just kind of have to see in what you can improve, and just get better and better every single video that you create, and just keep on going. And eventually, one day, you will get better at creating content. You will, reach a larger audience. Things just will start to grow. It's interesting because I'm seeing this exact same thing with YouTube right now. I'm getting, when I first started posting, I was getting a couple hundred views at most, and that was a very tricky thing for me because on social media, it's a lot higher. On short form content, I'm getting a lot more views than that. 100 is, I usually see that within a minute of posting on my short form content, and so it was a very tricky, like, mental adjustment. And so I have a little bit of, like, sympathy into people who are just starting posting in general and seeing 100 views on their videos. And I get it that it's hard to push through and struggle through that. But when I started on YouTube, I said I'm posting for the next 2-3 years no matter what. I don't care what the views are. I care about improving my content and making it better every single video that I make. And now my views are, I'm averaging 10 times more than that on my videos. So things change over time, and it takes a lot, is what I tell everyone who wants to do it. You just got to be consistent and keep improving.
It's incredibly solid advice, that I mean, and underpinning that is, like you say, this posting almost daily, and doing that for 4 years, being consistent. But I guess the flip side, how do you balance that level of consistency with actually making sure that it's sustainable?
Yeah, I would say find a consistency that works well for you based on whatever your system, whatever your situation is, and stick to that. There are people who make YouTube videos every single day. I knew that wasn't realistic for me. So I chose once a week to release long form YouTube videos, and I'll continue to release one per week for as long as I possibly can. If I get more time, maybe I'll increase that to two at some point in the future. But yeah, you don't have to post once a day. You don't have to post multiple times per day, like people are saying. You can post one video every 3 days and keep up with it. You can post just on Tuesdays and Fridays, and maybe that's your consistent schedule. But as long as you hold a schedule to yourself, continue to do that exact schedule and choose something that works for you, I think that's way better than trying to start off posting 7 days a week, burning yourself out entirely, and getting to the point where you can then only post 4 times a week. But even that's burning you out a little bit, so you just give up and you never post again because you couldn't reach that one per day that you originally tried to do. So it's definitely figuring out what works for you and just sticking exactly to that, no matter what.
Thank you. I mean, and that's because we've seen a lot of, and currently there's a lot of creators that we see talking about quitting or changing or wrapping that down, but it sounds like you've really achieved a balance that works for you.
Yeah, and I'd say that's the most important thing, is just find out what works for you, and not to the point where you're burning out reaching that schedule.
Lots of really sound advice in there. And but I do want to go back a little bit to understand, as you progress through this whole journey and you've changed your pieces of equipment in the kit, you've expanded and grown, give me a couple of pieces of gear that you just absolutely love, probably more than you should, that maybe actually have paid you back tens and tens and tens times what you've invested in them, something that you just absolutely rely on, that's your favorite.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at my desk for the first ones that come to mind. I use a Stream Deck on my desk, which essentially is this little gadget. I think the cord's too short for me to show it on camera, but it's this little gadget, maybe about this big. There are 15 little buttons on it. You can assign those buttons to do anything you want on your computer. I have, one that automatically mutes my microphone. I have one that automatically types out my full address because I send it a lot in email. I have one that is called New Post, and it automatically opens all of the browsers I need to open when I'm posting something new, which is, Amazon, Geniuslink, my Cake page where I post my links, and a few other pages as well. And so it automatically opens the 5 browsers rather than typing them in. I have a button that opens a folder which contains a link to all of my social media platforms because I type those so much. So it's that slight automation that saves me a minute or two here and there a dozen times throughout every single day, is one that will be on my desk forever, and I keep adding more and more things to make my life a little bit better with it. Number 2 is probably the microphone I'm using. I think it sounds really good in my voiceovers versus a cheap microphone. So definitely getting voice quality is super important. Number 3 is my lighting setup, although it's on the pricier side, and I think there are probably cheaper lights that can do almost as good. So some sort of lighting is super important. I'm looking around to see if I've missed. Oh, and my camera is tracking me, but see if I've missed anything that comes to my mind. But those are the big things really for me.
Oh, I love them. I love them, and that, not the stream, the automation, and I mean that seems to be something that, from a workflow perspective, that you've really leaned in on, both with Stream Deck, but also with Notion as well. Have you started playing around with incorporating any AI tools into your workflow?
I use ChatGPT a little bit. I'm working on using it a little bit more in terms of helping me find new cool products. Those can be really tricky to find and actually come across on the internet without some sort of help. So I go pretty deep into prompts with asking for ideas, telling them which ones are the best, and then asking for new product ideas, and doing that over and over again until I do get to products that are really cool. I also one of my contractors uses it for my website. Every day I update my website with new coupons across Amazon, and he aggregates those from a source and uses ChatGPT to input it into my website a little bit faster. It basically like puts it into a table that he can then copy paste. So helping with small things like that. I'm honestly not too deep into using it aside from those little things, but it's in my plans to figure out more and better ways.
No, no, I love it. Love it. It's. I think from from what I'm hearing and seeing is you're taking all the things that are working for you to put them into your system, so you've got this manageable, straightforward workflow for you. I love it. I think it sounds a really sensible approach.
Yeah, I think just making the little things faster is always something I'm trying to do, and I think it's great for those sorts of little tasks to, turn an hour job of organizing things into a 10-second job of organizing things is always a huge benefit.
That was brilliant. You have been an incredible guest today. Really appreciate your time. You've been absolutely gracious and very generous in sharing your journey. One question I've got, just to round it out, what's one piece of advice or tip you'd like to leave our audience with today?
Make sure you're making content that you genuinely love. If you're just creating something because you think your audience likes it, or you think it's going to make you the most amount of money, or anything else, it's going to be very hard to stay consistent and reach those longer term goals that you want. So yeah, just make sure you really like what you're doing. I would not have been able to post this many videos and create this much content around something I didn't like. So I think that's probably the number one most important thing.
It's an incredible takeaway. And very finally, where's the best place to find you?
Yeah, I'm on all the social media platforms. The handle varies a little bit based on all of them because it's it's an alliteration name. But my name across social media is Favorite Finds. On TikTok, it's Our Favorite Finds. On Instagram, it's Favorite Finds underscore. But yeah, if you just search Favorite Finds on a platform, you should see me come up.
Brilliant. Thank you again. You have been an absolute star. And thank you for sharing your road to revenue.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks. Stay awesome.